Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most shocking cases that shook Egypt, a case full of mystery and questions that will make you doubt everything you hear. Imagine this scene with me. Just 3 days after the wedding night, the police receive a report about a tragic incident in an apartment. The victim suffered severe injuries that led to a coma. The prosecution moved quickly, searched the apartment, and found sharp tools stained with blood. Surveillance cameras captured unusual activity that day. At first, suspicion fell on the person who was last seen with the victim. But then, a shocking confession comes to light. From the victim herself before she died. She said that she was the one who hurt herself. But the real question is, why? What could make someone reach this point in just 3 days? Was it a sudden decision caused by psychological pressure? Or is there something else hidden? Get ready, because we're about to go on a very long journey, full of investigations, doubts, mysteries, and details about the lives of the people involved in this case. And together, we'll try to uncover the truth behind one of the strangest cases that ever happened in Egypt. And before we begin our story, don't forget to like and share the episode so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you're a fan of Indian stories, subscribe to the other channel to stay updated with all the new content. You'll find the link in the description box. Now, without further delay, let's dive deep into our story. The story began in July 2021 when a 20-year-old girl named Amira Ali Abu Salem, who held a technical diploma and was known to be a balanced and cheerful young woman, got engaged to a man named Ahmad Ibrahim al-Ashri. Amira's family, especially her father Ali Ahmad Salem and her mother Saadia Ahmad Sadiq, always said that their daughter was intelligent, lively, and full of life. There were no signs that Amira had any psychological issues or had ever experienced anything unusual before. Everyone testified that she was a normal girl who, like any other girl her age, dreamed of getting married and building a happy life. She was simple, yet ambitious, and always talked about wanting to become a great mother and build a home filled with love. Her parents were very proud of her and saw her as the perfect daughter in every sense. On the other side, Ahmad Ibrahim al-Ashri was a 27-year-old man who owned a clothing factory in the El Gamaliya area of Dakhlia Governorate. Financially, he was doing well. He had a spacious apartment in his family's house and seemed, on paper, like the ideal groom. But there was one very important detail about Ahmad. He had been married before and divorced his wife just 2 weeks after the wedding. That first marriage of Ahmad's was a mystery in itself, and it would become a crucial part of the story in understanding his personality and the suspicions that later surrounded him. Ahmad's first marriage happened in 2020, about a year before he proposed to Amira. According to the information Amira's family received, Ahmad had married a girl from a nearby area in El Gamaliya, but the marriage lasted only 2 weeks. Why? No one knew the exact reason. Ahmad's family simply said it wasn't meant to be, and that was the only explanation they gave. But a marriage ending in just 2 weeks wasn't normal. It had to raise major red flags for Amira's family. There were rumors that the divorce happened due to Ahmad's intense personality. People who knew him said he liked to control everything, whether in his work or personal life. One account claimed that his first wife wasn't comfortable with him and asked for a divorce because she felt she couldn't continue with him. Another version said it was Ahmad who decided to end the marriage due to arguments between them. But there were no clear details about what exactly happened. What's certain is that the marriage ended quickly and that Ahmad tried to close that chapter of his life and rarely spoke about it. Ahmad himself was a bit of a complex character. He grew up in a middle-class family in El Gamaliya, but managed to build his own business, a small clothing factory where he worked with a number of employees. He was known as an ambitious young man who liked to present himself as successful and in control. He dressed well, spoke confidently, and had the kind of charisma that could easily convince people. But some people said Ahmad had another side to him. He could be short-tempered at times, especially when things didn't go his way. At work, he liked to control every detail, from choosing the fabrics to how the workers were treated. People who worked with him said he could be difficult to deal with and didn't like being contradicted. These traits, by the way, became more noticeable in stressful situations. Ahmad's first marriage was a controversial point, especially after the case happened. People started asking, did what happened in that first marriage have anything to do with what happened to Amira? I mean, if Ahmad had issues with control or how he dealt with people, could that have affected Amira? Or was it just a coincidence that his first marriage failed? Amira's family, when they heard about the first marriage, didn't dig too deep into it. They saw Ahmad as a successful young man with a job and an apartment, and for them, that was enough. But if they had looked a bit deeper, maybe they would have noticed something wasn't quite right. That first marriage, even though it was brief, should have raised the question, what happened? And how does someone like Ahmad get married and divorced in just 2 weeks? When Ahmad proposed to Amira, he presented himself as a successful and stable young man. He was keen on appearing as the ideal groom, someone with a job, an apartment, and a guaranteed future. Amira's family saw in him a good opportunity for their daughter, especially since Amira was dreaming of a stable life. The engagement took place in July 2021, and it was very short, only 1 month. But something strange happened. Ahmad's family was in a big rush to get married. By August 2021, they started pressuring Amira's family to speed up the wedding preparations. Ali, Amira's father, objected to this rush. He believed 1 month wasn't enough to properly prepare his daughter for marriage. But Ahmad's family reassured him with sweet talk, saying there was no need to delay and that everything would be fine. This rushing later became a suspicious point. Why were Ahmad's family so eager to get the marriage done quickly? Were they trying to hide something? Or was it just excessive enthusiasm? No one knew the answer, but the rush added another layer of mystery to the case. In September 2021, another issue occurred. Ahmad was jailed for a month due to a fight with another person. The fight, as reported, was due to a work dispute, perhaps an issue at his factory or a business deal gone wrong. There aren't many clear details about the incident, but what's known is that Ahmad spent a month in jail. Amira, despite that, was determined to wait for him, and her family finished preparing her wedding trousseau during that time. This shows that Amira was truly committed to Ahmad and saw him as her hope for a new beginning. When Ahmad was released from jail in early October 2021, they agreed on a wedding date, October 16, 2021. On the wedding day, October 16th, it was like any other typical Egyptian wedding. Amira was happy, smiling and posing for pictures with people. There were no signs that anything was wrong. Everyone said Amira looked stunning and was full of joy and life. But what happened after she entered the marital apartment with Ahmad marked the beginning of a nightmare. That same day, October 16th, Amira began behaving very strangely. The joy in her eyes vanished. She appeared disoriented, crying without a clear reason, as if something inside her had completely changed. Ahmad thought it was normal and said she was just upset because she was away from her family. He told her to call her family for comfort, and she did. Amira called her mother, Sadia, and her sister, Nurhan, that same day, and told them she felt suffocated and scared without explaining why. On the same day, at 4 a.m., Ahmad called Amira's family and told them that everything was fine, but Amira didn't want to talk at the moment. But there was another version of events that Ahmad himself shared, and it was very strange. He said Amira was completely hysterical, refusing to sleep in the apartment, and even rejecting any physical closeness with him. She was screaming and saying that she could see strange beings walking in front of her and shadows on the walls. She truly believed that something strange was going on in the apartment, as if there were spirits or black magic. Things got so bad that Amira left the apartment and stayed with the neighbors, and Ahmad's mother ended up sprinkling salt inside and outside the apartment to drive away whatever Amira was seeing. Sprinkling salt is an old traditional practice in Egypt used to repel jinn or negative energy. But the real question is, was Amira really seeing these things? Or was there another reason behind this fear? This version of events, by the way, became a controversial point during the investigations later. According to Amira's family, she had no history of psychological issues or belief in superstitions like this. So how did she suddenly start seeing beings and shadows? Was there something in the apartment affecting her? Was she under severe psychological pressure? Or did Ahmad himself have something to do with her reaching that state? These questions became crucial when the investigations began. On the next day, October 17, 2021, Amira's family went to visit her. They found her in a very strange state. She was crying, unfocused, and then suddenly fainted. Even more bizarre, she was suffering from heavy bleeding with no clear reason. Her family rushed her to the hospital where doctors performed surgery to stop the bleeding. Saadia, Amira's mother, noticed that Amira didn't want to go back to the apartment with Ahmad. She was terrified, but unable to explain why. Everyone tried to calm her down, and eventually, she agreed to go back with Ahmad to the marital home. But that bleeding episode raised another red flag. How could a girl like Amira, who seemed perfectly fine at the wedding, suddenly suffer from such severe bleeding the very next day? Was it due to an injury no one knew about? Or was there another medical cause? The medical reports weren't clear on that point, but the bleeding added another layer of mystery to the case. That bleeding, by the way, was a point that many people later discussed on social media. Some said it could have been the result of an injury that occurred in the apartment, but there was no evidence to confirm that. Others suggested it might have been caused by a sudden medical condition, but the doctors didn't confirm that Amira had any pre-existing illnesses. What's strange is that the bleeding occurred on the second day of the marriage, which made people ask, did something happen in the apartment between Amira and Ahmad? Or was there another reason? That point is still a mystery to this day. On the third day, October 18, 2021, things started to get even more mysterious. Ahmad decided to take Amira to a sheikh, spiritual healer, to see if she had been affected by black magic, as he claimed. He was convinced that was the reason behind her strange behavior. This sheikh, according to reports, was known in the area for treating such cases. But there are no clear details about what happened during that visit. Did the sheikh say Amira was really possessed? Or did he recommend a different kind of treatment? No one knows for sure. What is known is that after the visit to the sheikh, Amira went to her family's house at her own request. As soon as she arrived, she went into her room and began crying and shaking. When her family asked her what was going on, she told them, "I'm lost." And she kept repeating it over and over without explaining what she meant. That was very strange. What did she mean by, "I'm lost"? Was she afraid of something specific? Did she feel like she was in danger? Or was she expressing a deep psychological distress? No one could really understand what she meant. When Ahmad saw Amira's condition, he told her family that she needed to visit another sheikh for treatment, and he promised she would get better. But the question here is, why was Ahmad so insistent that Amira's problem was caused by magic or possession? Was he truly convinced that was the cause? Or was he trying to blame something supernatural to cover up something else? That point became one of the reasons people later began to suspect him. Because if Amira was suffering from a psychological issue, why didn't he take her to a psychiatrist? Why did he go to a sheikh instead? Was there something in the apartment or in their relationship that pushed Amira to that state? These were the questions raised during the investigations. On the fourth day, October 19th, 2021, the disaster happened. Nurhan, Amira's sister, called her in the morning and Amira answered, but she was speaking incoherently, as if she were hallucinating. Then she hung up. When Nurhan tried calling again, Ahmad answered and said he was going to bring a sheikh to treat Amira. Around 2 p.m., Ahmad called Amira's family and dropped a bombshell. "Amira, your daughter hurt herself." When Amira's family arrived at the apartment, they were met with a horrifying scene. Amira was drenched in blood, with 20 stab wounds across her body, including injuries to her abdomen, chest, and legs. Ahmad claimed that when he entered the apartment with the sheikh, he found her like that, and that something strange had caused her to harm herself. Amira was taken to the emergency hospital in Mansoura, but she slipped into a coma and didn't wake up for 21 days until November 9th, 2021. During that time, the police began investigating Ahmad, as he was the last person to see Amira. Investigations confirmed that Ahmad's parents, his father and mother, were out of town on the day of the incident, meaning no one was in the apartment except Amira, Ahmad, and the building's doorman. The building's surveillance cameras showed that Ahmad left the apartment around the time of the incident, but that alone wasn't enough to remove suspicion. The investigation focused on several key points. The 2 knives found in the apartment. Police examined the knives carefully to determine whether they were the weapon used in the attack and whether any fingerprints could be lifted from them. Surveillance footage. Investigators analyzed the videos closely to pinpoint the exact timing of Ahmad's entries and exits. These details were crucial in determining whether Ahmad was inside the apartment at the time of the incident or not. The medical report. Doctors at Mansoura Emergency Hospital issued a preliminary report on Amira's condition, confirming that the stab wounds were deep and scattered across various parts of her body. But there was no conclusive evidence identifying who inflicted them. The 2 knives found in the apartment became a critical piece of the investigation. Police tested them to see if any fingerprints could be lifted and to determine whether they matched the wounds. The medical report confirmed that the injuries were caused by a sharp knife, and the 2 knives in the apartment could have been the weapons used, but the key question remained: who used them? Did Amira really stab herself? Or was someone else involved? The prosecution was trying to piece everything together to find an answer. The surveillance cameras were another crucial part of the investigation. The footage showed Ahmad leaving the apartment around the time of the incident, but it wasn't clear whether that meant he was innocent. He could have left after the incident happened, or he could have left for an unrelated reason. The police analyzed the footage carefully, but there was no definitive evidence proving whether Ahmad was in the apartment when the attack occurred. That uncertainty made the case even more mysterious. Because if Ahmad was in the apartment, he could be the prime suspect. But if he wasn't, then how did Amira end up in such a horrific state? When Amira woke up from the coma on November 9th, 2021, she gave a shocking statement to the prosecution. She said she was the one who hurt herself in order to escape the overwhelming fear and suffocation she was feeling. She claimed she was seeing strange creatures and felt that there was no other way out but to do what she did. Additionally, the forensic report released after the incident supported her statement, and even more surprisingly, it confirmed that Amira was still a virgin, meaning no marital relations had taken place during those 3 days. That report became a turning point in the case because, at least officially, it indicated that Amira had inflicted the injuries on herself. But the story didn't end there. Ali, Amira's father, said something very strange. He revealed that Amira had asked him to have Ahmad jailed, but when he asked her why, she said she was afraid for her family if she spoke. That meant she was afraid of something, but no one knew what it was. This statement raised even more suspicion, because if Amira really did harm herself, why did she want Ahmad imprisoned? Was she afraid of him? Or did she feel there was some danger to herself or her family? Unfortunately, Amira didn't get the chance to explain. She died later that same day, November 9, 2021, due to her injuries. The prosecution, based on Amira's statement, the forensic report, and the surveillance footage, released Ahmad Ibrahim al-Ashri as there was no evidence proving he committed the crime. But to this day, the case is still full of unanswered questions. How could a girl like Amira, who was happy and emotionally stable, suddenly decide to end her life in such a horrific way? Was she really suffering from sudden, severe depression? Or was there something else hidden? Ahmad's first marriage, which ended quickly, led many people to suspect him. Did he play an indirect role in what happened? Or was he just a victim of circumstances? People on social media began discussing the case, and many videos were shared suggesting that there was a big mystery. Some questioned Ahmad, especially since he had been previously married and divorced in a short time. Online discussion speculated that Amira's strange behavior, like seeing creatures, might have been caused by intense psychological pressure, perhaps due to Ahmad's treatment, or something about the apartment itself. Others believed that the story about jinn, which Ahmad and his family told, was just a cover-up to hide something else. YouTube videos and Facebook comments suggested that Ahmad might have a controlling personality, something that showed up in his first marriage, and that this might have psychologically affected Amira. But all of that remains speculation, because there is no solid evidence to prove anything beyond what Amira herself said and what the official report confirmed. This case opened up a major discussion about mental health in Egypt, especially for young women starting their married lives. Many girls face enormous pressure when they move into a new environment, away from their families, and find themselves with people they don't really know. Amira, like many girls, dreamed of a happy life. But in just 3 days, her world was turned upside down. People started asking, can the psychological pressure faced by a new bride really drive her to such a state? Or was there something more going on? The case also got people talking about superstitions like jinn possession and how, in Egypt, people sometimes turn to such explanations instead of facing real problems. Others suggested that Amira may have truly experienced extreme psychological pressure, whether from Ahmad or from the environment of the apartment. And that's what led her to this condition. This case also had a huge impact on the community. People in El Gamaliya started talking about it, and many were shocked at how a girl like Amira, who was happy at her wedding, ended up in such a state. Some said this case highlights the neglect of mental health in Egypt, and that we need to be more aware of the challenges young women may face at the beginning of marriage. Others said the case shows how superstitions can influence people's thinking, and how they can be used as an escape from facing the truth. In the end, Amira Ali Abu Salem became the victim of a deep mystery, leaving behind her family, and the dreams that never came true. To this day, the case remains full of unanswered questions. What really happened? Was Amira truly possessed, like Ahmad claimed? Was she suffering from severe psychological distress? Or is there another secret buried with her? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. If this is your first time watching the channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new stories. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.